music producers, if you get stuck in loopitis, which is basically beat block, and you keep getting stuck doing the same 8 bars over and over again and you can't escape the 8 bars, I have this video for you today. So I have a solution. So basically what you want to do is use the bass notes to help you escape the situation. So for example, let's open up the BusyWorks Beats sampler. This is free at busyworksbeats.com/sampler. I'll leave a link below. So the first thing we're going to do is build out the chords. The chords give the song structure. And without structure in your song feels like it doesn't have movement. So what we can do is start with the structure. So let's right click, go to piano roll. We're just going to write in the key of C for today. Now this is 0. We're using what is called chord codes I teach at busyworksbeats.com/premium. So this is 0. We're going to count up 0, 3, 7. That creates the minor chord. So this is 0. Count it up. 1, 2, 3. We're going to count note by note. All right. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Use all those notes. And then we're going to take this bottom note, copy it down. All right. Now the next step is, okay, so it's a pretty strong preset. Let's pull it back. We're going to copy all these notes, pull them over, and then we're going to pull the middle note down 1, hit shift down. So now this makes it 0, 2, 7. This is called a suspended second chord. All right, now we're going to copy this 4 times. Now this is where most people kind of feel like they get stuck. So let's add this to the playlist. Let me turn down some of the drive on this synth. It's a little aggressive. Okay, so now we're in double time at 140 BPM. So if we copy this over, this is technically 8 bars. 16 bars is technically 8 bars. But I found that 8 bars is the sweet spot when it comes to arranging, especially for hip hop and R&B, because 8 bars is where you can take us out of one vibe and then put us in another vibe without the ear getting too fatigued. Okay, so let's make this pattern unique, the second pattern. And all we're going to do in the second pattern is do the same thing. The only thing that is going to change here is we're going to take the bass and change the note. So we're going to pull this down, the second note down 5 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's called the perfect fifth. It's either up 7 notes or down 5. The next note we're going to add is called the augmented fifth. It's just 1 note above the 5th. And then this last note is just going to be 1 note just above what's called the tonic in this case. So all we're doing here is changing the bass line. Now the next step, I'm going to play the same exact chords, but this time what I'm going to do is use my left hand to go down the scale. Okay, so I'm going to record this in manually, just because it's easier to record it than to draw it in. So again, all we're doing with the left hand is just going down the scale, no crazy technique. Okay, so FL Studio cut my pattern off, so let's just make sure you have room to do this. Sorry, I got to do this again. All right, so again, the technique is take the bass note and just go down the scale, or whatever sounds right to you, because technically we're going out of key at a certain point. And we don't need that many notes. I was just showing you guys how to take it further. So let's cut it off at about the 16th bar. So the bass is creating the movement. So similar to like a roller coaster ride, to create movement in the music, you have to have an up and downness. But in music, you don't always have to, play C minor and then move to a whole different chord. You don't have to get fancy with the chords, you can get fancy with the bass, and that's where most hip hop producers produce, is the bass line, the 808. So we have 2 things going. We have a harmony section, and then we have what's called a contrast. The contrast adds the density to your track. Harmony adds the structure to your track, or the glue. So we have 2 of the 4 components here, harmony and contrast. So what we can do on part 2 is remove one or the other. So let's hit Control G to make this a whole different pattern. Now I consider this the A section and then this the B section. So something different has to happen. We can either swap a sound. So for example, my favorite technique is just taking out the bass. So let's go in here. Let's copy all these bass notes and just remove them. Open up another instrument and just swap the instrument completely. So if my first instrument was a sustain bass like this, well, like my other sound, hold on, like this, where it's a sustain sound, then my new bass might be a truncated sound. Okay, so for example, let's just pull up a preset and let me find, there's one called Moog Starter. Here it is. All right, so now I'm going to paste those notes, Control V, into here. Now the difference is that this bass is going to have more of a truncated envelope. So let's turn the texture off. Let's go to the main tab and let's pull the sustain back and turn up the decay. So here's what it sounds like. That is the wrong thing. All right, so I pasted it into the wrong thing. Let's move it. All right, so let's go to the synth tab here. Let's lower the decay curvature. So it's not as long as our other sustain sound. And we could also pull it down an octave. We could also do cool stuff like, for example, just add more movement. So instead of just playing one note, we could play multiple notes. So we could be a little more jumpy with it because it's shorter. Let me take away some of the frequency modulation here. So notice we're playing a little bit different. So I'm going to play this by hand, but the main thing is this: we're playing more bounce and truncated notes. Let's see how that stacks up. So see how one side is more sustained, whereas this side is more rhythmic. And so that small difference can help you get out of beat block, even though we're using the same exact notes and that same exact chord. Now, another technique I like to do is swap out. So I either do one technique, which is to swap out the harmony, or swap out the contrast sound. So in this case, we swapped out the contrast sound. Now let's add like eerie top line type sounds. Now most people think a top line has to be a sound that goes doo 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 doo, like some kind of step sequencer sound, but it doesn't always have to be that. Sometimes it could be just an eerie sound effect, something like that. So let's record that in. Try a little pitch bend in here. see how we kind of were in that same vein, but it changed up towards the second half. I used more pitch bends. So your top line doesn't need to be like this. Like it doesn't have to be this like Freddy Krueger melody all the time. So here's the top line. The only thing we don't have is a rhythm in here, which is usually going to be our drums. Rhythm can also be instrument rhythms, but let's add some trap drums in here. It's almost like the bass is a kick drum. Tat one to the tat tat one to the tat tat one to the tat tat to the tat tat to the tat tat to the tat tat. Let's just repeat that pattern. This is more of a laid back type beat, but just showing you guys how these elements stack up. And it can make the song feel like we're moving forward instead of just being stuck in the same chord progression. It's all about changing the bass line and the type of bass. Now let's add the sound effect type stuff. So we're going to turn that sound way down and just add some effects, but it's a really cool, unique sound. Adding in little effects like reverb, delays, different things. see how the arrangement feels alive if it doesn't feel stale. So it's all about using these two main sections. The key is to change the bass note because that will change the perception of the chords. And from here, you could change the bass style. So if it's more of a sustained bass, you could switch it for more of a truncated bass or just a different bass sound in general. And that will help these two sections be their own thing. And in between, you could add these top line type sounds or sound effects to blend the two together and introduce the rhythm on the second half or however you guys arrange. But this is how you escape the 8-bar repetitiveness, and also try pitch bend. That also helps. Let's add a couple of mixing plugins here. And now we're just adding a mix to pull these two together, these two sections. All right, so that's the technique on how to escape the loop trap. All right, guys, think about these things. Think about A section and B section. Think about changing your bass line over time, not your chords. And think about the two styles of bass. You have sustained bass, which is like woo, and then you have truncated bass, which is like boom, boom. And you could switch those out on each section. Another thing you could do to create differences in the sections is to add pitch bends in one or the other. All right, y'all. So that is the easy way to get outside of a loop block. Peace out, guys. To learn more, go to busyworksbeats.com/premium. To get the BusyWorks Beats sampler, which is free, go to busyworksbeats.com/sampler. Peace out, guys.